The rock cycle. This is only one of many diagrams showing the different relationships that make the rock cycle. There are about as many rock cycle diagrams as there are people teaching the rock cycle. I use this diagram because it's fairly straightforward, fairly easy to see, and it doesn't have arrows going all over the place as most rock cycle diagrams do. What you see here are 5 materials. The materials are shown in rectangular boxes. Processes, there are 5 of them as well, and the processes are indicated by arrows, as you see here. 5 materials, 5 processes. Once upon a time, the Earth was at least partially molten, if not completely molten. And molten material inside the Earth is called magma. If the liquid rock or the molten material at the surface, then we call that lava. But the basic material from which everything comes originally is magma, because the magma was mostly inside the Earth. So the rock cycle starts with magma. Magma only can do one thing. It's going to cool, it's going to undergo the process of crystallization, and magma will only form igneous rock. Now, once you have igneous rock, there are a number of different possible processes that may occur to that igneous rock, but we'll continue on the main part of the diagram. Igneous rocks, if they are exposed at the surface of the Earth, they will undergo weathering, which will break down the igneous rock minerals into bits and pieces of broken rock material, which we call sediments. Sediments, when they are deposited in a suitable environment, will undergo compaction and cementation, just like the way you make a snowball. And that process of compaction and cementation is called lithification. And what you get from lithification is always going to be sedimentary rock. Once again, there are a number of different processes that may occur to sedimentary rock once it's formed, but we shall continue along the rock cycle main diagram. Sedimentary rocks, if they are exposed to heat and pressure deep inside the Earth, they will undergo the process of metamorphism. And the process of metamorphism always forms metamorphic rock. Metamorphic rock, there are a number of different processes that occur to them, but continuing on and finishing the main part of the cycle, metamorphic rocks, if they're exposed to increasingly high temperatures, eventually the metamorphic rock will melt, and when any kind of rock melts, it's always going to form magma, and we're back where we started. Now, looking at the possible processes that could have occurred at different stages, here we go back to igneous rock. Igneous rock, it can undergo weathering. As we already said, igneous rocks exposed at or near the surface of the Earth undergo weathering, and when they undergo weathering, they're always going to form sedimentary rock. Igneous rock, if they are exposed to high temperature and high pressure, they undergo the process of metamorphism, and metamorphism is always going to form metamorphic rock. Igneous rock, if they're exposed to high temperatures, they are going to melt. And if igneous rocks melt, then they're going to go back and form magma once again, from which they came. In the sedimentary rocks, if they're exposed at the surface of the Earth, they undergo weathering and erosion, and weathering and erosion always produces sediments. Sedimentary rock, if they're exposed to high heat and temperature inside the Earth, they undergo the process of metamorphism, and metamorphism always produces metamorphic rock. If you take sedimentary rock and get it very, very hot, it will melt, and the process of melting is always going to produce magma. Metamorphic rocks, a number of different possible processes. If metamorphic rocks are exposed at or near the surface of the Earth, they're going to undergo weathering, and when you undergo weathering, you always produce sediments. If you take metamorphic rocks and expose them to further heat and pressure. Then those metamorphic rocks can change into a different kind of metamorphic rock through the process of metamorphism. And again, if we take metamorphic rocks and get them hot enough, they will melt, and when that occurs, you're always going to end up with magma once again. So, in review, we have 5 different materials as indicated by the 5 rectangular boxes, and we have 5 different processes which are all indicated by the individual arrows. The rock cycle is one of the most important concepts of geology. Almost all aspects of geology depend on the rock cycle in one way or another. I cannot emphasize enough how important the concept of the rock cycle is for your understanding of geology.